gentlemen, welcome to our wonderful show, The Faces of Carlsbad, a program where you will meet people that you might know, that you've known for a long time, or that you've never met before. But by the time the interview's finished, you're going to say, I would like to meet that man in person. And if you, or that lady too, because we've done very lovely ladies on this show. But most of our men are very handsome, so we won't go into that though. And today I have a very close friend of mine, Delbert Briones. Delbert,
how you doing?
Welcome to the show. I want to say something about a while back, we won't say how many months or days back it was, I interviewed a friend of yours by the name of George, and he mentioned your name. Now, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, he stays with me. I try to be his caretaker. Since his mom died, he didn't have nobody to really go to, and the money wasn't there for him in California. So I felt, me knowing him all these years, if he'd come stay with me, I could help him get by. You know, he doesn't get a big check, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get back to George later on in the show, but right now I want to find out a little bit about you, your background, your grandparents, where they came from, your parents, and
well, my mom, she was from Arkansas, Fort Smith. My grandmother, I never met her. My great-grandmother, her mother. I never met my dad's mother or his father either. And my dad, he's a French Basque. His name is Manuel Briones.
From the French Basque, that's from the southern part of France?
It's from the Pyrenees Mountains.
Yeah, the northern part of Spain. Yeah, okay.
And he come here with nothing. I mean, he was out in the Guadalupe Mountains, and he sheeped herd. And he worked for, I don't know, some way got with Charlie James and Les James. And he lived out there, and they were good to him. And his brothers, he had two brothers, Felix and Joe. And they all, you know, came here, and they were cowhands, ranchers, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
No more sheep herding. But
and you say their last name?
Briones, B-R-I-O-N-E-S.
Okay.
And I have a lot of good family, you know, and it's just, I don't know what to say. I just try to help people. I like helping people. People should like to help people.
I've watched you many times down at the Cat's Meow, and you're always trying to help somebody, and that really is nice, because you don't find many people like that anymore, do you?
No. A lot of people get discouraged because people, they burn you, you know, but you figure this, you know, I believe in karma. Yeah. And, you know, I was brought up by my mother to help people. She'd give you the shirt off her back. If everybody that knew my mother knew that she was just a great woman, and my dad too. Yeah. My dad, he was a preacher.
Now, your dad was from where again?
He was born in Presidio, Texas. It's right next to Okinaga.
Yeah, right.
And he came here, and you know, I can remember when my dad got saved, you know, he come in there and he was throwing everything away, and my aunt, she was there living with it, and she said, man, I hope a whole bunch of more people get saved so I can have all this booze and liquor, you know. No. And he would go out at 3 o'clock in the morning and pray for people.
Is that right?
Yeah, you call him, and if you were sick, he'd go up there and pray. He couldn't read or write, but he could read the Bible. He asked the Lord, he said, if you give me just one wish, let me read the Bible. He never read a paper. He never read nothing, but he could read the Bible. I kind of feel bad. Sometimes I joked with him, and I'd come home, and they had Joanne's Antique Store. My mom had that place. He'd sit out there reading the Bible on the porch, and I'd come in from California, and I'd see him, and I'd say, Dad, what are you doing? He says, I'm read up and prayed up and ready to go to heaven. And he says, I'm going right through that roof right there. And I you know, I'm a practical joker. I like to joke around. So next day I come, and I had my saw, and I got it out and hooked it up. And he said, what are you doing, Sonny? I said, I'm going to cut a hole in that roof up there, Dad. So when you go through that roof, you won't hit it. You'll just go straight up. Oh, and he got mad. He told me, he said, you make jokes of that. He said, it's not a joke. He said, I really am going to heaven. He loved the Lord so much.
That's amazing.
He really did.
And what about your mother? Does she feel the same way?
Yeah, she loved the Lord a lot. But he never did nothing without asking her.
Mm-hmm.
My dad told me, he says, he said, you could keep a woman, all you got to do is one thing. And I said, what's that, Dad? He said, keep your mouth shut. He said, not even a fish would get caught. He said, if you just keep your mouth shut.
Oh, that's funny.
Something I haven't learned.
I haven't either. No, I haven't either. I always make the mistake of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
But I met a lot of good people. I met you. I met, Charlotte. They work so hard down there in Spec, and, I like to give things away. If I might meet you on the street, I might just give you something. I don't know. If I see a little kid, I might, sometime I'm in the cat's meow, I said, get that, I'll buy it. I just know how it feels to not have nothing.
Yeah.
My mom tried to give me everything,
Now, did your father pass away before
No, my mother did.
Your mother
My
did.
mother died on Christmas Day.
Christmas Day? Okay.
Christmas has been very hard for me. And
your father, he lived he's still alive, is he? Or?
no, he died about 10 or 11 years later.
Oh, my goodness.
But, I miss him. We all miss our parents.
Of course you do, absolutely.
It's a friend that you can go and tell anything to.
Yeah. Well, as you were growing up, Delbert, what kind of jobs did you do that kept you moving along?
Well, when I first started, I was a gas station attendant. I was taught how to work at a truck stop. I used to think if you got a truck in there and I could fix the tire, I'd get $2. I thought, man, I can't wait till another truck comes in with a flat. And they charge $35 for a big semi, Mm-hmm. I didn't even know how to fix one. I remember the guy's wife showed me how to fix a flat.
Is that right?
Yeah, her name was Alda. And I worked for Glenn McCoy, give me my first job. And I'd work 12 hours a day, $2 a day.
And this
$2 an hour.
This was in Texas, was it?
No, it was here in Carlsbad.
Carlsbad.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know a lot about Carlsbad, There's a lot of things I miss. I see, like the Crawford Hotel. I think they should have left it up. The Lock of Werner, I think they should have left it up.
Yeah.
Those are places that were, memorable. Woolsworth, Whackers. I can remember I was a ball boy for, I used to chase the balls at the potash fields.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
I knew Mr. Montgomery, every time you'd get a ball, man, you'd go up there and take it in there and they'd give you a snow cone or a Coke or a hot dog. Or I met a lot of the people that played for the Potashers. I remember when that guy hit that ball so far, it went over across the street. It was the biggest home run that ever was hit here in Carlsbad.
Yeah.
His name was Lou something, Lou Johnson or something like that. And I met Dick Dietz. I met a lot of ball players. I was a ball player. We used to have semi-pro teams here. We could, have fast pitch, and now it's nothing but slow pitch.
Well, we used to have the team, the Carlsbad Potashers.
Yeah, that was a team I was a ball boy for.
Yeah, that's amazing. How old were you when you were in those days?
Oh, I guess about 14, 13, 12.
You had that desire
Small.
to play baseball.
Yeah. It was just something, I loved baseball so much, and then they asked me, the only thing I missed is that I didn't get to see the game very much, I could be the bad boy, and I'd get to see the game. But so many balls were getting, in those days, balls were expensive.
Yeah.
So they knew I'd get the ball and I'd bring it in, because, you can't imagine how many fights you'd have out there, somebody trying to take that ball away from you.
Naturally, yeah, right. Well, your love affair of baseball has still gone on, hasn't it?
Yeah, I love Mickey Mantle. I'm a Yankee for Mickey Mantle, like the Raiders. I liked the Cowboys at the beginning. I didn't like what they did to Tom Landry, so I went to the 49ers. And then I didn't like what they did to Joe Montana, so I went to the Raiders. And the reason I'm a Raider is because of Bo Jackson. I don't think there's anybody better than Bo Jackson. If Bo Jackson hadn't got hurt, I don't know what would have happened. Just like Ted Williams. We talk about Babe Ruth, we talk about all these people, but Ted Williams served 4 years in the Air Force for us. What would his numbers would have been?
Yeah.
Does anybody ever think about that? He was so good, he could tell you whether the home plate was off or not.
He was a
And he was the last 400 hitter until that guy from Detroit, Cabrera.
Mm-hmm. Well, my favorite player when I was growing up, now here I was born and raised in Ohio, but I was rooting for the Yankees because the baseball hero of mine was Lou Gehrig. I really liked Lou Gehrig, and then when he passed away, it just broke my heart. And
Yeah, I met Bob Feller from
did
Cleveland.
you meet Bob Feller?
Yes.
One of the great pitchers in Cleveland.
And I'm in love with Marilyn Monroe, Joe DiMaggio. I like him.
Mm-hmm.
When Marilyn died, Joe put a flower, a rose, on her grave every week until he died.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they once put her in an insane asylum, and he told them, he said, "I'll come down there and take that place apart brick by brick." He said, "If you don't let her go."
Mm-hmm.
He had a love affair with Marilyn Monroe. Even if she was with somebody else, he still loved her.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Joe DiMaggio was a great player. He played center field, didn't he? Yeah, for the Yankees.
Yeah, he still holds the record for the most consistent games that you get a hit.
Yeah, yeah.
Pete Rose almost broke it, but that's one of the records that's really hard to go. I think it was 55 games and hit every game.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Now, did you ever, the Potashers, they played down there in the park, didn't they?
Yeah, right by the beach.
Yeah, right by the beach, because I sat down there and watched one of their games one day.
It was fantastic to go in there and just to smell the popcorn, to see C.F. Montgomery. I hope I'm saying his name right. He used to have a little hardware store right there where they got that candlewood,
Mm-hmm.
and sell insurance, and it's just so many things. It's like Carlsbad Wrecking. There used to be a house there that had a lady. Her name was Miss Callison. I know nobody ever remembers her.
Yeah.
She was white-headed,
Mm-hmm.
And she told me about meeting Billy the Kid, that he stayed there.
Yeah.
And
Well, what year did you come to Carlsbad, by the way?
why?
No, what year?
I was born here.
Born in Carlsbad. I remember you mentioned some of those hotels, and I remember the first time what were the two major hotels we had?
The Crawford and the La Caverna.
And the Crawford and that La Caverna were still here, and I was on a train. It's when the trains brought people into Carlsbad. I came in from Akron, Ohio, and all the way down the line, Clovis, I had to change trains to that one single car, and I got down here, and Mr. Earl Bush, who was a principal at one of the schools, met me at the train and took me over to the hotel, and I thought, gee, that's nice.
And Dan Blocker was one of my teachers.
Yeah,
He was such a nice man. He taught at Eddie School. Big man.
yeah.
It'd scare you if you seen him. He was so big, but he was such a gentle giant.
I started teaching there, but he left 2 years before I got to Carlsbad. So I never...
He came to Carlsbad one time, and they got him a speeding ticket using a little sports car, and he was going over 100 miles an hour by the caverns.
Oh my...
And they give him
Is that right?
They give him a ticket.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And you'd think he would have been dressed like a cowboy, but he had a Ivy League hat, one of those, they call them bebop hats.
Yes. Yeah.
His son looks just like him. Looks exactly like
right?
Dan Blocker.
I've not seen pictures of his son.
Oh, his son was in television.
He died quite a few years ago, though, didn't he? But what was it, in Texas? He was in Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you never had anybody arguing with him.
no, he was a big man.
He was
a big man.
Yeah.
But, you don't argue with big people.
No, that's for sure. So you've met a lot of nice people through
I have.
And your latest friend here is George, that we were talking about before.
Mhm.
And
Even the one that does his show, I've met him. He's such a pleasant man to talk to. A lot of people, they think, well, I guess because they don't have the opportunity he has. I remember when he had out here, we used to have a lot more bands then than we do now. We don't have very much stuff come here.
You're talking about the famous Guy Lutman.
Uh,
You're talking about the famous Guy Lutman.
yeah.
Yes.
He did. He helped Carlsbad a lot.
Oh, you better.
But the deal is that there's a part of jealousy And jealousy, it eats you. It does.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not doing it, you're not happy. If somebody's got a better position than you, you don't say, well, they're doing a good job. You want that position.
Right.
And that's totally different. That's the way I feel. I'm a person that if you got something, I'm glad you got it. I know you worked for it.
Mm.
It wasn't handed to you.
No.
You know, and when you get your check, you know, you feel good. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you know, living in this part of the country, yeah, I don't think you can beat it. We don't suffer all those horrible storms that they suffer in the north during the winter. The summer gets a little hot, but you can put up with heat. And
Well, look at Carlsbad. You can go anywhere here and feel safe.
Yeah.
You know, you go to California, go to East LA. Me and George have been run out of East LA, you know, because we got lost. You know, I don't think, when I worked in Watts in Compton, I used to have a police escort to take me to work and take me out.
Doesn't surprise me.
And they'd tear it up right after you'd finish.
I lived in Chicago in that Chicago area, and the south side of Chicago.
Well, you go to Harlem,
Yeah.
go to South Houston.
Mm-hmm.
There's parts in Houston, I'll tell you what, if you go down that street, it better not be dark.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, it isn't everybody who lives in those areas that are nasty. It's just that you run across a group that gets together and they want to create a problem for somebody. And
Well, what breaks my heart is so many people don't realize what their moms go through.
oh,
You know, my mom would go and work a job and work 40 hours, and she should have already been home just resting, and to keep her kids going.
yeah.
It's terrible. It really is. You know, I pray every night. You know, I'm not a real religious man, and a lot of people say, well, why? How can you pray? Well, you know, I just see what's going wrong, and it's the only thing I can do to help it. What else can you do? If
And,
that man up above can't help you, what's going to help you?
yeah. And though you do the praying, anybody's allowed to pray.
I believe that too.
That's one thing that can't be taken away from people.
Yeah, but they're trying to even take that away. It's like Christmas. How many kids really know that Christ was born on Christmas?
It's changed through the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's changed through
You ask them about Christmas, they think about Santa Claus.
Yeah.
They think about toys. They think about gifts. And how many mothers, my mother before she died, she would borrow money to buy gifts for everybody and took a year to pay it off. And at the end of the year, re-borrow the money and do the same thing over and over. And when she died, it took my dad 2 years to pay Finger Hut. I mean, she charged so much stuff on Finger Hut, and you know, but that was, she didn't drive a car. She never drove a car in her whole
Oh, is
life.
that right? Let me tell you.
George never drove a car. George has never driven a car. That's why I took him in. Where could he go? He had to get on, you know, they beat him up in California, you know, and they did so many things, ugly things to him. You don't know how many times I went to California to go help him because, you know, my love for him, you know.
Yeah. Well, you're concerned about people, and that's nice.
Yeah.
I didn't learn how to drive until I was 33.
Well, I'll tell you a story about George. George was driving in driver's training, and he ran up in this flower bed, and he destroyed this lady's yard. George got out of the car, and he said, that's the last time I'll ever drive. And he never
was.
drive.
Some of these people today, it's unbelievable. Because they drive recklessly,
I know.
and many of
And
them,
there's no respect. I mean, if you get cut off, they throw you the finger, or, you know.
yeah, and many of them drive in after drinking alcohol,
Yeah.
which is not the smartest thing in the world to do, or they drive when they're tired.
Well, you know what the deal that worries me is I've seen so many people's lives change because of alcohol. You know, I can't say I haven't drank, but I can remember when I got put in jail out in California, I went to the store to get a six-pack. The guy that was driving was under the influence of alcohol.
Yeah.
I ended up in the dog food section. Dog food cans were falling. He went through the whole store and went down the aisle. If anybody had been down that aisle, they would have killed him. they would have killed him.
Oh
You know?
my gosh.
And I just thank God that, you know, He's had His hand on me for so long. I really do.
Well,
You know?
in the few moments we have left, what does the future look like for you? You feel young?
I feel like we need some help. We need some help in this world. We need some help in the United States. You know, we're fortunate. How about the people in this area? You know, they say they love the Lord, they cut their head off. You know,
Yeah.
you know, and we just got to pray for the people that are unfortunate and be happy with what we got here now.
Why can't the world, with all its people, learn to like each other and take care of each other and look upon each other the same way you do?
I don't know. We all bleed. We all have blood, you know. And there's so much prejudice that I don't know. Some people were just brought up that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when your mother tells you this is the way to drink a glass of water, well, that's the way you're going to drink it.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, moms aren't always right. They try to be right.
Yeah.
But you know what? I never seen a mom turn her back and run from trouble for their kids.
No, not at all.
They go out and give their life away, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, they might instill something that it just doesn't go away. It can't.
Absolutely.
But I really appreciate y'all bringing me on the program.
Well, Del, I want to thank you very much. By golly, it was a real
And
pleasure.
you know, I
having you.
really enjoyed it.
Well, I knew you would because I had that feeling that you and I can really talk for hours.
Well, I was a little bit scared, you know, because I'd like to talk, but you know, it's kind of funny when you know somebody else is going to see you talk.
No, that's okay. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today, and we want to tell you the next time you see Delbert walking around this city, come up and shake his hand and say, we appreciate what you've been doing for us. And
I
on behalf
try.
of all of us, goodbye and good luck. Well, Del.